This morning, Canon announced the C80, which is basically a C400 in an upgraded C70 body. Now, just so we're clear, I don't have the camera and I've not had an opportunity to use the camera, so this is just kind of like an announcement reaction or something. But I think this is an exciting camera and an exciting release, and I think it's really starting to round out Canon's lineup really well. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that in this video. So if you kind of want to nerd out about new cameras and stuff, then let's hang out. Well, if you're new here, my name is Tyler Edwards. I am a filmmaker and photographer based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and I do this for a living and also make YouTube videos. So welcome aboard. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe if this video and my other content seems worthy of your subscription. So the C80 is a really interesting release, and I think it's a really exciting release and kind of a weird time because the C400 just got announced and then the C80 just dropped. And basically, like, as far as I can tell, the C80 is essentially a C400 with the exception of having 6K 60 RAW and then mainly some hardware, some IO stuff that's lacking on the C80 that the C400 has, like Genlock and all that kind of other stuff that for a lot of people I don't think that actually matters. But lacking those things and those frame rates in 6K RAW, it does come at a lower price point at $5,500 US, which is pretty surprising. I think that's what the C70 was initially released at, and I think the C70 price has actually dropped since then. So real quick, what stands out to me with the C80? Well, first of all, it has to be the inclusion of a 12G SDI port on the C80. It's kind of at the top, like above the buttons on the side where like the ND filter buttons and stuff are. There's an SDI port that kind of just slapped on the top, and that's really cool. It also has a full-size HDMI port. And what's really cool about this is you can send two signals out at the same time and send different signals out. So you can send a clean feed out to a video village or director's monitor or something, and then you can use the other one for maybe onboard monitoring or send it out to a first AC or something like that, and have different information for different needs, which is really cool. And I just prefer to use SDI in general just because it's a more robust output than HDMI. So I think that's really exciting. I think that's really cool, especially being able to send out two different signals. I think that's a huge selling point for those of us that are in productions that need to have different signals sent out for different reasons. Now, next up is the price, $5,500 versus the, I think, $8,000 that the C400 is. I think the $5,500 price point of the C80 is definitely gonna be a lot more attractive to more buyers. I think those that are buying the C400 are going to be buying the C400 for specific reasons. It's definitely more riggable. You can build it out more. You know, you can add V-mounts and stuff like that to it, and all this kind of other stuff. To where I think the C400 is, you know, more production ready with, you know, more, it's ready for crew and all that stuff. Whereas the C80, I think, is more of a solo operator, small run and gun type stuff. Like if you got the 24 to 105 f2.8 lens, like I feel like that would be like the combo. Like if I got the C80, I'd probably get that lens as well and just leave that together like forever, and just like that'd be the only lens combination I have with that camera. And then the R5 Mark II, slap a 70 to 200 on that, and that'd be an amazing A cam, B cam setup, and then also be able to use stills on that as well. Now, another cool thing about the C80 that the C70 didn't have, which I'm almost positive it didn't have, is the multi-interface shoe. And Canon's starting to put this on their newer camera bodies, both in their mirrorless line on their still side and on the C400 and now the C80. And this is really cool. This just gives you the ability to use something like the Tascam XLR interface. I'm actually using that right now on the R5 Mark II, and it gives you two full-size XLR inputs. And I'm assuming that you'll be able to utilize the full-size XLR inputs on the Tascam unit, and then the two XLR inputs on the C80 to give you 4 XLR inputs. I'm assuming you might be able to, but I haven't actually read like the manual or specs or anything. But that'd be really cool, a really great way to get 4 channels of XLR audio. I know you can do that on the C400, so I wouldn't be surprised if you can do that on the C80 as well. So as I mentioned with frame rates, it goes up to 6K 30 RAW as opposed to 6K 60 RAW on the C400. And kind of based on the quick comparison that I did, it looks like in RAW, you're basically getting half the frame rates that you get from the C400. So, you know, that's somewhat justifying the price difference between the C400 and the C80. And I think one of the reasons for that is it only has 2 SD card slots as opposed to the CF Express B slot on the C400. CF Express B cards obviously able to handle much higher data rates. So I think that might be one of the reasons why they omitted it from the C80. And then on the C80 in 6K, you only have the lightest compression, or I guess the heaviest amount of compression of the raw flavor, the LT, as opposed to the C400 having the, I think, LT, ST, and HQ, or whatever the higher ones. I can't remember what they call them. But in all reality, I think even the LT, I think most people even just use the LT anyways, just because I think it looks really good. It looks really good on the C400 and even the C300 Mark III and the C500 Mark II. I think those got those updates as well with the new raw flavors. But yeah, I think most people are going to be utilizing LT anyways, and that, you know, that just gives you the ability to, you know, manipulate your white balance in post, and, you know, have more adjustments with sharpness and highlights and shadows and all that stuff. So I don't think the raw compression ratios that you have on the C400 that are locked on the C80 is really that big of a deal, in my opinion. But in the compressed codecs, I think everything looks to be the same. You get full frame 4K 120 and all those other flavors, which is really cool. One thing I like about the C80 over the C400 is the full-sized BNC timecode port, whereas on the C400 it's that DIN-sized timecode port. And honestly, like the full size is just much more of an industry standard. So if you're hiring a sound op, they're typically going to have timecode boxes with them. And just the full size SDI, the BNC port is going to be much more standard, and they're most likely going to have that. The DIN is a little bit more niche. It's kind of like on the Komodo X that I have. I just own the EXT to 3.5 millimeter cable because most sound guys and gals don't typically have that. So it's nice that the C80 has that full-size BNC port. Now, just like with the C400, it uses the new BP style battery as opposed to the older BP style batteries that the C70 and C300 Mark III and all those cameras used. It's the newer version, the BPA30N. And what my understanding is, the limitation on the C80 is with not using the new battery is not being able to power the multi-interface shoe. I think pretty much everything else, though, from what I can tell, using the old batteries seems to work out just fine. So if you're not running that multi-interface shoe to power the Tascam unit or something like that, and you have a bunch of those old batteries, then you should be good to go, unless there's something else that comes out that Canon says like, you can't do this, that, and the other. But based on what I've been reading and just some of the initial reviews that I've seen, doesn't really seem to show that much of a hindrance with the older batteries. So that's really cool, because the older batteries are, they're not inexpensive, and the newer batteries aren't inexpensive either. So if you already have those, that's pretty good news. And then I know Core also makes a battery, like a BP A60. I think it's a 98 watt hour battery, but that's the one that has like a D-tap and a USB port on it and stuff. So if you're powering an external monitor or something, that'd be something that'd be pretty cool to have. I know my buddy Griffin Conway out in California, he has a bunch of those batteries, and they're just super nice to be able to power kind of everything without having to rig up a V-mount and stuff like that. So honestly, from my perspective, that's kind of what I'm most excited about. It obviously shares a lot of the other things with the C400, like the triple base ISO and all that fun stuff. But those are kind of the things that stand out to me. I know a lot of people seems like a lot of people are pretty upset that it doesn't have a CF Express Type B card slot, which obviously it'd be nice. I have a lot of CF Express Type B cards, but I also have a handful of the V90 Angelbird 256 gigabyte cards. So if I end up getting the C80, then I'm pretty much set up with SD cards. So the bummer is those SD cards are pretty expensive as opposed to what you can get for a CF Express Type B card. Maybe this was one of the cost-saving things that Canon was able to do, is to kind of recycle parts from the C70 and using the C80. And who knows? I don't know the reasoning behind that. Might just be product delineation. Who knows? But yeah, I think a lot of people probably would have preferred to see a single CF Express B card instead of 2 SD cards. I'm not all that bent out of shape about it, but I know that is definitely a bummer for some folks out there. So anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say on that. I think it's a pretty exciting release. If you are interested in pre-ordering one, I will leave a link, an affiliate link to B&H down below. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but kind of helps this channel out, a little bit of commission that I make from that sale. So yeah, I encourage you to use that if you feel so inclined. But just like with any new camera release, don't go out and just buy a new camera because it's a brand new camera, it's a hot new camera. If your cameras are working out for you, then don't go buy this new camera. Just keep using what you're using and maybe rent it down the road to see if it in fact does fill a gap in your production needs. Well, anyways, that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.